Okay, so a bit more on that specific station. Is the first time we add some conveyors. So I want to talk about that a bit. Um, it's going to be the only time outside of the API modules that I'm going to talk about Python and how you can leverage it for simulation. I generally keep that in a specific module, but specifically for the conveyors, I don't believe that you can really go without it. And I made my possible to make it as so simple, in fact, that no one uh, can't understand what's going on. Like, it's very, very simple. So there's two ways of running a conveyor. The first one is simply running the conveyor endlessly in one direction and not asking yourself any questions and just putting stuff on it for it to disappear at the end of the conveyor. So that's way number one. And you have way number two, which is the one I was using in this example here, where you can simply move the conveyor with an increment of a certain distance. So first of all, like I showed you before, if you double click on a conveyor, you'll realize the conveyor is pretty much, I'm going to do init first. A conveyor is pretty much just a very, very long linear axis. So it's just like moving stuff in one direction without asking any questions. So in this case here, you can see you have joint axis jog. And if I press in either direction, so if I press towards the minus, it will bring the stuff forward. If I press towards the plus, it will bring the stuff backward. And if I make it home, it will go back to 0. And if I move it like way just a bit too fast here, you can see like stuff moving around like that. Anyway, so the point is that you can either make it, like I said, move continuously or make it move by increment. So let's talk about increment first. To make things move by increment, you need to have one of those two macros here. I have two macros here because I have two conveyors, but let's go just to watch the first one. So next part in, if I double click on it, you can see it's gonna bring the stack of bottle forward, and you can see here every time I press on it, it's moving the stack of bottle 100 millimeters forward, and if I press init conf position, it will bring it back to 0. So those two are super useful, one for the initialization and one for the process. If I right click a Python macro like that, I can select edit Python script. If I do so, it will bring VS Codium on top here. I can press Ctrl and plus to make that a bit bigger. And I really simplified that macro as much as I could. So you can just copy that from here and bring it to any other station without any problem. The only thing you need to do afterwards is change the name of the mechanism here. So we have here conveyor in. So I'm simply using that here and placing it here within the apostrophe. And then you have to enter how much you want the conveyor to travel each time you run the macro. So in this case, I wanted to move 100 millimeters, but as we saw before, I need to do it towards the negative for the bottles to go forward. So I went for minus 100. Then afterwards, the rest you don't really need to care about. I'm just adding the value you ask here to the current position. So I'm moving an increment, so you can take a look at it if you want, but we will cover that in the Python module if it's something that is interesting for you. So now that I have that, I can just run it here, or like I already did, go in pick and scan and run it as a thread here every time I'm done picking a bottle. So let's go and initialize. Here the init conveyor gonna edit this one too so that you can see. Is also very simple. It's a bit longer because we have 2 conveyors, so we have to do it twice. But if you had only one, you can just delete that out and just change the name of this conveyor here like that. So once you have the right name here and here in this case, you can just execute that Python script to bring the conveyor back to their home position, or in fact, whatever position you decided to add here. So you can change here if you don't want it to go to 0, you can put whatever value you want there. Okay, so yeah, that's the first method. So I'm just running it that way. The second method is to just have things, like I said, move straight and never stop. Because here, let's say if we run the main program, if I go pick here, I'm moving as an increment for the first conveyor here and doing the same for the second conveyor here, so moving an increment. But let's say that I want just this bottle to go to the next workstation, and I don't care about waiting here. So what I can do is, instead of using run next part out here, I can delete that out here. I can open that conveyor here and add a new target, call it, I don't know, run conveyor. Right click, make that a join target. Right click, robot linked. We're going to talk about that later, but here you need to link it to the right mechanism you want to move. So in this case, it's going to be conveyor out. And for conveyor out, you can, I'm just going to show visible, home. This one we need to move forward. So I'm gonna put it at, we're at 0, so let's go to just 100,000, like that. And I'm gonna go right click, teach current position. You could have added whatever value you want, or just crank it up to the top. That should have worked too. So I'm gonna create a new program and add the move J to run conveyor. I don't need any reference frame. I don't need another set tool. I'm gonna call this one run conveyor. And what I can do now, if I init conveyor, if I run that here, oops, sorry, I forgot. I need to right click here, robot, and then conveyor out. So I need to tell also what is this program is attached to what mechanism. So it's conveyor out in this case. So now if I run that here, you will see the reference frame just moving. We can change the speed, but we're going to talk about that later. So I can hide the path here, don't need to see the path. And in my init, I can, before everything is initialized, right click, add instruction, program call. I'm going to go get my run conveyor. And this one I'm going to start as a thread, so it's just going to run endlessly. Click OK. I'm going to select my main, start that out. You can see here the reference frame starting to move. And then the object going. I could clearly slow down the speed of the conveyor if I wanted. But yeah, I'm gonna show you how to do that in a future video, so let's not spoil myself. And here you're gonna see something real quick. I'm happy it will happen like that, and now it stops. Why? Because we reached the 100,000 millimeters that I gave as a starting point. So here I could have went for 500,000 or 400,000. Right click, teach current position, so that would have worked. And now if I start everything back at 0, Oops, I need to start the main program, not just the init. My bad. And I can fast forward that to, I don't know, 7 times speed, and now we are literally catapulting bottles through the stratosphere. But yeah, you get the concept. Okay, so that's it for this piece of the example. Let's stop this video, and in the next one I'm going to show you how to add a small light signal to showcase if things went right or wrong with the actual scanning that occurs here.